Winds up to 71 miles an hour, hundreds of trees down across the inland northwest.
Because it was a miracle. I mean, inches away from a totally different story.
A close call for one South Hill family after a tree crashed into their bedroom.
In the Comstock neighborhood, the park covered in debris, homes in shambles from fallen trees.
Widespread power outages canceled school and leave thousands of homes still in the dark tonight. Crews say they'll be making repairs through the night.
I woke up in the middle of the night worried about it, and by then it was too late.
Restaurants already struggling with COVID-19 restrictions. Now they're having to deal with the aftermath of today's storm.
And in North Idaho, neighborhoods and city streets are still in the cleanup stages. It's the same story across the region. It will take time to repair all the damage from Windstorm 2021.
Today, the inland Northwest endured the worst windstorm we've seen since 2015. 2 people are dead. Trees have fallen all throughout the region on numerous homes, and thousands will spend the night without power. Winds reached 71 miles per hour today, which matched some of the speeds that we saw back in 2015, although that storm's highest wind speed was 77 miles per hour. Good evening, and thank you for joining us for KREM News at 6. I'm Mark Hanrahan.
Welcome, everyone. It's good to have you here. I'm Whitney Ward.
Because it was a miracle. I mean, inches away from a totally different story.
So when you see these pictures, it's pretty hard to believe the 2 people in this bed even survived. That branch punched right through the roof of their South Hill home, nearly impaled the wife.
KREM 2's Tim Pham spoke with the family today. He joins us live on the South Hill tonight. And Tim, it does not get much closer than that.
No, Mark, it doesn't. Frightening moments for this family, a very close call. I was the first reporter here on scene this morning around 6 o'clock. That's when this all happened, and firefighters described to me what they saw when they walked into that bedroom. They say a tree in the backyard of this home snapped in half, and then the top of it pierced into the master bedroom, barely missing a mother of 3. We all heard it. A relentless windstorm pummeled the region.
At first I thought like a piece of furniture fell, like, a dresser fell down.
Dangerous winds snapped a tree in half and took a nosedive into a South Hill couple's bedroom. First responders described the impact as a large lawn dart landing in the center of the room.
I'd never heard my dad react like that to anything, so I obviously thought the worst, so I sprinted upstairs and I saw the tree.
These chilling photos tell it all.
It looked like, from my point of view, it looked like it impaled my mom. It was, I was freaking out.
Eli Henson says the tree limb landed in between his parents, nearly missing his dad, but pinned down his mom.
I uncovered the covers and just miraculously just went right in between her armpit. Just, it was pinned into like her skin, No broken bones.
Firefighters had to use chainsaws to lift the tree off and take her to the hospital.
Because it was a miracle. Inches away from a totally different story.
Nothing short of a miracle. Eli thought his mom might lose her arm, but doctors say the tree didn't hit any vital organs.
I think we were a little shocked at first. I think we all thought we might have lost our mom for a second there. So it was a little scary, but I think God was protecting her. And
yeah, truly a miracle, you guys. Yeah, the family tells me that they're okay, but obviously a little bit shaken up. And an update on Mom, she is in good spirits this evening. Live in Spokane, I'm Tim Pham, KREM 2 News.
Just unbelievable. We hear the word miracle a lot, but that's it.
I'm glad she's okay. My goodness.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Now, the Comstock neighborhood on the South Hill, we know, was one of the hardest hit in the inland Northwest.
Our Casey Decker was at Comstock Park today to survey all the damage. Casey?
We'll take a look right here. One of those massive trees ripped clean out of the ground, and you can see this root. Look at the size of this thing. It's basically as tall as I am, and these are all over this park right now. Look over here as well. You can see this tree on top of another tree breaking in the middle, and all of this debris over here. This looks to be on top of some sort of cable line we saw earlier. By the way, these trees, a few of them going all the way across Howard Street on the edge of Comstock Park here and blocking off traffic. Look over here as well. About a half a dozen trees just in this little section of the park on their side, and behind them you be able to see the swing set. Well, that swing set somehow avoided all this mess. It's still standing in one of the only clear areas of the whole park. This kind of mess, you can see it really throughout the entire Comstock neighborhood. Dozens and dozens of massive trees have fallen throughout Comstock Park, rendering large sections of it impassable. Huge holes in the grass where evergreens fully uprooted. Some of the trees that survived nonetheless bent into sharp angles, a frightening sight as the wind continues to blow. Of course, where trees cause real problems is on the nearby streets. A few blocks away, this tree fell on a house. Luckily, no one was hurt. And take a look at these pictures from inside the home, a gash in the ceiling. Insulation strewn all over the floor. The homeowner says a crane will be required to remove the tree. Luckily, she has insurance. She called downed trees a part of life on the South Hill. In the 2015 storm, she lost a tree in her front yard, and another across the street collapsed onto her fence. This year, the house just behind hers hit as well. The top half of the same tree breaking clean off and impaling that roof. Home video showing what the huge hole looks like from the inside. Again, insulation everywhere. Meanwhile, city cleanup crews are doing their best to limit damage. Traffic streets are the priority. Huge trunks being chopped up and loaded into multiple dump trucks. But it could be some time before all the roads in this neighborhood are passable again. And you know, that's why city leaders are asking people tonight to try to stay off the roads if you can. Kind of like a snowstorm, the less traffic there's going to be on the road, the safer things will be. And of course, if you do go on the roads, especially in these South Hill neighborhoods, be prepared to take a detour or two. A lot of them, like this one right here, are still blocked off. Reporting from Comstock tonight, Casey Decker, KREM 2 News.
And the city of Spokane will be providing free disposal of trees and tree limbs that came down because of today's storm. Tree debris can be placed in the green yard waste carts for pickup on customers' normal garbage collection days. That's during the week of January 18th. And keep in mind, this is an extra pickup as the service currently has been suspended for yard debris for the winter. The debris must be contained in the carts, though. They can't be hanging out. The debris also outside the carts will not be collected, and branches have to be smaller than 3 inches in diameter, and they do have to fit inside your garbage can. That free disposal, though, will be available also at the Waste to Energy facility on Geiger. That starts Friday, January 15th and runs through Saturday, January 30th.
There will be some long lines there this weekend, I'm guessing. Well, this morning, the 911 system in North Idaho was flooded with calls about downed power lines and trees crashing into homes.
So many calls actually were coming in. The Office of Emergency Management had to set up a call-in number just for people to report all the damage. We are turning now to Morgan Trow, who is live in North Idaho. And Morgan, what's the scene there? What has the damage been like today?
Mark, Whitney, it is absolutely devastating over here. I don't know if you can see behind me, but this is a tree that actually went through somebody's living room, missing them by only a couple feet. So this couple was awake in the morning and luckily did not get hurt by this, but it just shows you how fast the wind was going today. 50 to 70 mile per hour winds rocked the inland Northwest, causing tree damage and power outages all over the region. North Idaho has suffered so much damage that Kootenai County signed a disaster declaration, which allows the county to ask the state for more resources.
It's crazy. I just hope everybody stays inside for the day. The lights started flickering around 6 o'clock this morning, and then around 6:30, complete blackness.
The 50 mile per hour winds woke Mike Faulkner and his family up.
You could just tell the sound of like a tree falling, you know, like we jumped up and I got the kids in the basement and then we just ran out of the house. I threw all their clothes in a laundry basket and split.
Luckily, his home was not severely damaged, but his neighbor's was. Their tree split the house, but they weren't home. Faulkner's large front yard tree fell, falling into a neighbor's fence, narrowly avoiding the house. He said he's fortunate, but another tree is dangerously close to falling over. They are trying to find another place to sleep tonight, not wanting to risk the tree falling overnight.
Just hoping it doesn't fall on our house.
Yeah, and actually, we went on a tour of the house, which you will see at 6:30 later in the show, but there was some cracking while we were in there, some other trees. They're potentially falling. So we want to be super careful, but I will catch up with you at 6:30 for that tour. Reporting in North Idaho, Morgan Trow, KREM 2 News.
All right, Morgan, thank you. One place that got hit hard back in the windstorm of 2015 got hit again today. Pine Acres Par 3 golf course lost at least 15 trees. Take a look. You can see some of the trees also crushed the driving range fence and then cut into the greens themselves. So this is the same place that lost more than 100 trees 5 years ago. At that time, the Par 3 had to close for almost 2 seasons because there was so much damage. I stopped by today just to check on them, and they say this is really nothing like it was in 2015, but the cleanup and the repairs will likely take months and could even impact the upcoming spring and summer season.
We had lost probably about 4 greens completely in 2015, and I've got at least 2 of them that are pretty well destroyed right now. So we'll work to clean them off first and then to kind of patch them together. So they'll be a little rough for most of the summer.
Tucker says that he does most of the repair work himself, so he's also concerned that snow will eventually come back into the forecast, which could slow things down even more.
Want to take a pause from the headlines and talk weather. Meteorologist Thomas Patrick joining us. Thomas, I have to wonder, we had a lot of rain leading up to the windstorm, and you just wonder with the ground so saturated, did that kind of aid or add to the trees toppling over today?
Yeah, absolutely. That definitely was a factor in the tree damage that we saw, because when we get these violent winds, we know that at least tree branches are going to be snapped, but to see so many uprooted trees, you got to think that the soil was certainly very soft, very damp, because it basically just rained very hard through the first half of this month. So that was definitely a contributing factor. But here's the key one: those wind gusts in that 50 to 60 mile per hour range. Some wind gusts reported upwards of 70 miles per hour. In fact, the fastest report we had was a 71 mile per hour report out at the airport in Spokane. Those winds have calmed down quite significantly from that burst we had this morning. Just 15 mile per hour sustained winds. The gusts not much higher than that right now, temperature of 35 degrees. So those wind gusts not going to be very strong for tonight, thankfully. In fact, they'll be outright calm by the time we get to tomorrow morning. So at least we get the relief from the wind, and we don't have any other significant rain or snow makers in the near-term forecast. Look at how far the system traveled already. It was on top of us this morning, and it's already over the Dakotas as of right now. So the jet stream and that wind-driven energy certainly driving that storm system very quickly across the northern tier of the U.S., where there are more high wind warnings now for the northern plains, more 75 mile per hour wind gusts between Montana and the Dakotas. But that is behind us. So coming up, going to recap and showcase just the comparisons between this event and back in 2015 and what we can expect weather-wise moving forward from here.
Looking forward to that, Thomas. Thank you very much.
And like street crews, power crews also working very long hours just to get the lights turned back on.
At the peak of the storm, more than 100,000 people were without power. Our Ian Smade joining us live in the newsroom tonight to explain where the outages are tonight and when utility companies can get to them. Ian?
That's right, Mark. We are still seeing widespread power outages throughout the inland Northwest at this hour. Let's start by taking a look at the Kootenai Electrical Cooperative outage map right next to me right now. It goes as far south as Plummer with outages, and then you look up here to Lake Coeur d'Alene. A lot of the lake residents are seeing their power still out at this hour, and that again happens up at Hayden Lake all the way up to Lake Pend Oreille. Again, that's one of the major areas of the power outage, that whole area from Hayden Lake up to Lake Pend Oreille, and then again the residents near Lake Coeur d'Alene. But one thing to note is this empty area right here. This is the cities of Post Falls and Coeur d'Alene. The customers of Kootenai Electric Cooperative there are seeing their power on at this hour. Now let's take a look at the outage map for Inland Power and Light. It's a little bit different of a story. There are some residents out over in Lincoln County and as far south as Whitman County without power for them, but the main part of their outage, as you can see, is Spokane County. A lot of their customers without power now. They are sitting a little over 15,000 customers without power for Inland Power and Light, and a few up in North Idaho. But let's get to the big one, and that's obviously Avista. They're the ones seeing the most widespread outages at this hour, and you can't see it too well right now. Oh, there we go, populated. Spokane and Coeur d'Alene seeing the most outages. Just between Coeur d'Alene and Spokane, about 45,000 customers still without power here at around 6:15 p.m. But it goes all the way up from the Canadian border down as far south as the Pullman-Moscow area. Now, one thing to note, you can't quite see it that well, but their central Idaho customers not really seeing power outages right now, and they've in fact the last few hours haven't been seeing power outages. And another thing to note, back in 2015, a lot of people talking about that windstorm, a lot of memories from that windstorm. They saw it at its peak about 200,000 customers without power, but during this windstorm, the max we saw at one time was about 103,000. Now, earlier today, I asked Avista's director of operations about the company's response to all of these outages. He said, well, some people are getting power restored. They don't know yet when everyone's lights will turn back on. Take a listen.
We have resources in Spokane, Coeur d'Alene, the Silver Valley, so customers, individual customers will start seeing restorations, but at this time, I'm not able to say when customers will be restored. We are restoring customers currently.
Howell also says the wind has to subside before crews can do a full assessment of the damage. As of earlier today, Avista said there were at least 3,300 incidents causing power outages throughout the region. The most hard-hit parts of Avista's grid have been in the Pullman and Spokane areas thus far, as well as out in the Silver Valley in Idaho. Avista said customers in all areas with power outages should be prepared for this to be a multi-day event. That means that some customers won't see their power come back on tonight. We will continue to monitor the power outages throughout the region after this historic windstorm. For all the latest, you can go to KREM.com. Whitney, Mark, back to you.
Ian, thank you very much. Much more windstorm coverage up ahead. In the meantime, the U.S. House has voted to impeach President Donald Trump for a second time in 13 months. 10 Republicans break with the party to vote yes on a charge of inciting the insurrection. We have more when we come back.
Before we go to break, though, check out these photos. These were sent in to us by Nikki Martin out on her property in Deer Park. She says her family, they're not sure how they're going to be able to replace that truck. If you have a photo that you'd like to share with us, you can just download the KREM 2 mobile app and submit your photos in the Near Me section. KREM 2 News will be right back.
You're watching KREM 2 News at 6.
On this vote, the ayes are 232, the nays are 197. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
So with that, the House has voted to impeach President Donald Trump for a second time in 13 months. Both Democrat and Republican members fiercely debated exactly 1 week after that violent assault on the Capitol where 5 people died.
Unlike the first impeachment, this time 10 Republicans joined the Democrats. The third-ranking House Republican, Liz Cheney, and several of her GOP colleagues voted yes.
We are on an absolute race to the bottom.
These articles of impeachment are flawed, but I will not use process as an excuse.
Now, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said today he has not made a final decision yet on how he will vote, and he says he will listen to the arguments when they're presented to the Senate. A spokesperson, though, for him said he will not reconvene the Senate for an emergency session, meaning that a trial on this impeachment likely will not happen until after President-elect Biden's inauguration week.
Meantime, Speaker Pelosi has already named the 9 impeachment managers who will act as prosecutors, making their case before senators. Eastern Washington Representative Kathy Morris Rogers was the only member of the Washington delegation that voted against impeaching President Trump. All of the Democratic representatives from Washington voted yes on impeachment, and so did 2 Republicans in Jamie Herrera Butler and Dan Newhouse. McMorris Rogers took to Facebook to explain her vote, writing in part, quote, "Based on my assessment of the constitutionally protected speech, I do not believe his words, as in the president, constitute an incitement of violence as laid out in Supreme Court precedent." Still ahead tonight, meteorologist Thomas Patrick has more on the wind coverage from today and when we could see the wind finally start to slow down. Stay with us. We're back after this.
Welcome back. Fortunately, the wind speeds have died down for the most part. Thomas, I know you touched on this a little bit earlier. The really kind of waterlogged soil was a big factor in all the tree damage tonight. And I know the city of Spokane has even told people not to go walking around tonight and tomorrow in the parks because some of those trees may have actually been weakened and could still topple over even though the wind has stopped.
Yeah, absolutely. We see the images of Comstock Park. Let's just watch them on TV and not go see it for ourselves because we don't know when the next tree is still going to come over. In fact, there was a video, I can't remember off the top of my head. It's of a tree toppling. It looks like the next one's already at a 45-degree angle. I didn't see that one come down, but we know what trees might be leaning a little bit more over than they would. And even though the winds aren't as strong as they were this morning, well, wind gusts in just the wrong way, or that soil that's just slowly giving, could still leave us with a bit more tree damage even heading into tonight. Here are the top wind gusts that we saw during the day today. 71 miles per hour in Spokane, 70 miles per hour in Post Falls. Basically everyone else at least a 60 mile per hour wind, which would be considered a severe wind if this was a severe thunderstorm, but we just didn't have a thunderstorm. It was just an outright windstorm for the area. Those winds at 71 miles per hour, almost hurricane force. A Category 1 hurricane starts at 74 mile per hour sustained winds, but we had wind gusts of nearly that strength anyways. Let's compare this to the 2015 windstorm because we are drawing a lot of comparisons to that. I think the big difference here is that while the wind speeds, that top wind gust was exactly the same, it wasn't as long of a duration of event as we had back in November of 2015. It was just a short burst, maybe an hour or two first thing in the morning. It was decently windy for the rest of the day today, but it was just that 1 or 2 hours where we saw all that damage occur, as opposed to 2015, which was more of an all-day event. And of course, it got very cold behind that event as well. So that's why there's only about half as many power outages as there were from that other event in 2015. Here's just some of the images: trees on the roads, trees on some houses, trees on power lines. It's a very common scene across the inland Northwest. A lot of these ponderosa pines, they're very top heavy trees, and again, the soil was just a little bit too damp, a little bit too soft, so those extreme and violent winds certainly giving it the push to topple over. And not just the wooded areas either. A lot of the areas in the plains like Central Washington, the Columbia Basin, and even down in the Palouse. This is a picture from the Ritzville area. Notice that this telephone pole got snapped straight in half, almost as if it were a tall tree anyway. So a lot of damage like that that's going to be cleaned up in the next several days. But moving forward, no wind anywhere close to what we experienced this morning. Much calmer day tomorrow, mostly sunny skies. Actual nice day to actually see the sunshine. I had to use my sunglasses for the first time in 2021, believe it or not. As for Friday, chance of showers, especially in southeastern Washington, parts of central Idaho. We'll get another break on Saturday, but it will be a cloudy day heading into the weekend. Sunday, another small chance for some showers, particularly over North Idaho. These rain chances are going to be pretty small, nothing extreme like what we saw, especially from yesterday anyways. But there you go, upper 30s to low 40s for the next 7 days.
Calm weather ahead. Let's have that. How about that, Thomas?
Yeah, let's try to not have these events
no kidding.
every other
My
week.
goodness. All right. Well, we are still tracking that massive windstorm that moved through the area earlier today, creating all those power outages for several people all across the inland Northwest. We'll let you know the best tips on what to do if your power does go out or is out at this hour, coming up after the break. During previous windstorms that have hit the region, there were people who spent days waiting for their power to come back on.
So knowing how to safely make it through an outage will be vital now. Here's KREM 2's Brandon Jones.
There were moments last night where all you could do was stop, be still, and listen to the powerful noises that were coming from outside. The damaging impacts left behind from those winds will be felt for several days.
Thousands of people don't have power right now. If it remains that way, there are some ways to preserve your food and salvage the resources around you.
Before anything, Avista suggests turning off all your appliances. Unplug all electronics unless it's a lamp or radio that can alert you when power comes back on.
If you decide to use a generator, use it only on necessary appliances. Never use a generator inside. Always run them outdoors. This will avoid carbon monoxide poisoning and potential fires.
Your cell phone is a lifeline during an outage. Try and find a way to keep it charged at all times.
If you have no other choice but to conserve your battery, write down important information like emergency contacts. Look up nearby sources for any of your needs, especially if you have any damage to your property. The KREM 2 app will keep you posted with every update you need, including alerts on power outage maps and estimated returns.
Your freezer will stay cold for about 48 hours, so don't open it and let any of the cold air out. After those 2 days pass, then that's when you're going to have to start thinking about cooking perishable items.
According to Consumer Reports, using gas or an outdoor grill is the best way to prevent spoiling. Check on nearby neighbors if your power remains off for multiple days. While crews work to get power restored across the region, make plans now to restock on canned goods and batteries. Staying prepared is the best way to deal with windstorms like this one. From Spokane, Brandon T. Jones, KREM 2 News.
And restaurants already struggling with COVID-19 restrictions. Now they're having to deal with the aftermath of today's storm. So coming up, we're going to see the businesses in our area that have been hit the hardest.
And we are still tracking that windstorm that blew through the area, creating all those power outages for thousands of people across the inland Northwest. We'll tell you the status of those outages coming up on KREM 2 News at 6:30.